My name is Clara. I want to share a story with you. It is a long story. It is the story of my mother, and it is the story of a secret she kept her entire life, a secret she took with her to the grave. This secret did not just change my life, it rewrote it completely. It made me question everything I knew about family and love and the past. This is not a short tale. It is a journey through memory and truth. So make yourself comfortable, and I will begin. Let me take you back to a time when I thought my world was simple and whole. I grew up in a small house on a quiet street in a town where everyone knew your name. The house was white with a big wraparound porch. My father built that porch with his own hands. He was a carpenter by trade. His name was Thomas. He was a quiet man, a man of few words. But his hands could create beautiful things from ordinary wood. Tables, chairs, cabinets, and our porch. I remember the sound of his hammer in the morning, a steady, reliable sound. It meant all was right with the world. He would leave for work just as the sun was rising. He carried a metal lunch pail that my mother packed for him. It always had a sandwich, an apple, and a note from her. A simple note, just a little heart or the words, "I love you." My mother was the heart of our home. Her name was Clara too, Clara Rose. She was a seamstress. She worked from a small sunny room at the back of the house. She could take old fabric and turn it into something new and beautiful. My favorite dress when I was 6 was made from one of her old floral curtains. It had little yellow flowers on it. I felt like a princess when I wore it. Our home was always filled with the smell of her cooking and the sound of her humming. She hummed old songs I never knew the names of. They were melodies from a time before me, a soft, constant soundtrack to our lives. She baked bread on Fridays. The whole house would smell warm and yeasty. She made the best apple pie in the county. She won a blue ribbon for it at the state fair 4 years in a row. I had an older brother. His name was Michael. He was 2 years older than me. He was my protector and my best friend. We shared a bedroom until I was 10, and he was 12. We drew a line down the middle of the room with tape. He was not allowed on my side, and I was not allowed on his. Of course, we crossed that line all the time. We fought over toys. We told each other secrets in the dark after our parents thought we were asleep. He was everything a brother should be. My parents seemed deeply, deeply in love. They had their little routines. Every morning my father would make my mother a cup of tea. He knew exactly how she liked it. A little milk, no sugar. He would bring it to her in bed. Every evening after dinner they would sit on the porch swing he built for her. They would hold hands and watch the world go by. They rarely argued. They were a team, a solid unit. I felt so safe in that love. I felt so sure of my place in the world. Our family was a perfect little island, or so I thought. There was only one thing that was strange. My mother never talked about her past. She never spoke of her parents. She never mentioned brothers or sisters. She had no old photo albums from her childhood, no stories about where she grew up. When I asked her about it, she would get a distant look in her eyes. A shadow would pass over her face. She would say that chapter of her life was closed. She would say her life began when she met my father. I believed her. Why would I not? It was a romantic story, a story of a love so powerful it erased everything that came before. My father never spoke of it either. If I asked him about my mother's family, he would just shake his head and say, "That is your mother's story to tell." It was like my mother appeared from nowhere, a beautiful mystery. I thought it was romantic. I thought it meant their love was so powerful, it created its own world, a world that started with them. Time passed. Michael and I grew up. We went to school. We made friends. We became adults. Michael was always the responsible one. He studied hard. He became an engineer. He married a wonderful woman named Sarah. She was bright and cheerful, and she fit into our family perfectly. I married a kind man named David. He was a teacher. He was patient and good. We both had children of our own. My daughter is named Lily. My son is named Ben. Michael has 2 boys, Ethan and Noah. My mother was a doting grandmother. She baked cookies for her grandchildren. She sewed them clothes for their dolls. She told them stories. She was the perfect grandma, always there with a warm hug and a listening ear. My father was a proud grandfather. He built cradles and rocking horses. He taught the boys how to use a hammer and saw. He was the rock of our family, strong and silent and always there. He never missed a school play or a soccer game. Then, the unthinkable happened. My mother got sick. It was a slow and cruel disease. It started with small things, forgetting where she put her keys, losing her train of thought in the middle of a sentence. Then it got worse. She would get lost driving to the grocery store. She would forget my name. She would look at my father with fear in her eyes, like he was a stranger. It stole her from us, bit by bit. It stole her memory. It stole her smile. It stole her humming. The house grew quiet. The smell of baking bread disappeared. In the end, she did not know who we were. That was the hardest part, looking into her eyes and seeing no recognition, no light. She was just a shell. She passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning. The world felt dimmer without her light. A fundamental color had been drained from everything. My father was lost without her. The heart of his world was gone. He stopped building things. The sound of his hammer was silenced. He stopped sitting on the porch swing. He just sat in his armchair and stared out the window. He died just 6 months later. The doctor said it was a heart attack, but I think his heart was simply broken. We buried them side by side under the old oak tree in the town cemetery. It felt like the end of an era. The task of cleaning out their house fell to Michael and me. It was a painful, slow process. Every object held a memory. Her favorite teacup with the little rose on it, his worn-out work boots by the back door, the quilt she made for their bed. We decided to take our time. We would not rush this grief. We would go to the house on weekends and work room by room. It felt like we were dismantling our childhood piece by piece. It was during one of these weekends that I found the box. I was cleaning out my parents' bedroom. It was a bright Saturday morning. Sunlight was streaming through the window. I was pulling out old winter blankets from the closet, sweaters and scarves that still smelled faintly of my mother's perfume. In the back of the closet on the very top shelf, my fingers touched something cold and smooth. It was not fabric. It was a small wooden box. It was tucked away in the shadows behind a stack of old hats. I had to stand on a chair to reach it. The box was covered in a fine layer of dust. It was made of a dark wood like cherry. It felt old and solid in my hands. There was a small brass latch but no lock. I carried it to my parents' bed and sat down on the edge, the same bed where they had slept for 40 years. My heart was beating a little faster. I did not know why. It felt like I was about to open a door to a room I never knew existed. I opened the latch. The hinge creaked softly, a sound of long disuse. Inside the box was a treasure trove of a life I never knew. There was a stack of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. The ribbon was frayed with age. There was a small black and white photograph. There was a delicate gold locket on a thin chain. And there was a single dried flower pressed between 2 pieces of wax paper. A rose, a perfect yellow rose. I picked up the photograph first. It was crisp and slightly faded at the edges. It showed a young woman. She was laughing. Her head was thrown back. Her hair was blowing in the wind. She was so full of joy and life. It took me a moment, a long moment, to realize it was my mother. She looked so young, so free, so different from the quiet woman I knew. She was standing with a young man on a wooden pier. A lake stretched out behind them. He had his arm around her waist. He was not looking at the camera. He was looking at her. His look was full of pure adoration. He was handsome in a clean-cut way. He had dark hair and a strong jaw. He wore a uniform, a military uniform. I turned the photo over. My hands were already beginning to shake. On the back, in my mother's elegant handwriting, were the words, Clara and James. October forever. My breath caught in my throat. James, who was James? My father's name was Thomas. I looked at the photo again. I stared at the young man's face. James. He looked so young, maybe 18 or 19. My mother looked the same age. They looked desperately, deeply in love. It was a love that leaped out of the photograph and filled the quiet room. My hands trembled as I untied the ribbon around the letters. The paper was thin and fragile, like onion skin. The handwriting was strong and slanted. I opened the first letter. The date at the top was from the spring of 1905 to My dearest Clara. It began, Another day has passed without you. It feels like a year. I close my eyes and I see your face. I hear your laugh. I miss you more than words can say. I pray this war ends soon. I pray I can come home to you and our baby. Take care of yourself, my love. Remember my promise. I will come back to you. Always. Yours forever, James. I read the letter again and again. Our baby. The words echoed in the silent room. My mother was pregnant with James's baby. I felt a cold dread wash over me. A puzzle piece was clicking into place with a terrifying finality. I looked at the next letter, and the next. They were all from James. They were all full of love and hope and the underlying fear of war. They chronicled his time at basic training, his journey overseas, his dreams for their future, a little house, a dog, a family. The last letter was different. The handwriting was not his. It was formal and neat, impersonal. It was unofficial stationery. Dear Ms. Miller, it read, it is with the deepest regret that I inform you. The letter went on. Private James Miller was killed in action. He died a hero. The nation thanks him for his ultimate sacrifice. The letter was dated November 12, 1952. Just 1 month after the photo was taken. My mother was pregnant and alone. Her love was gone forever. I found the locket at the bottom of the box. It was cool to the touch. I pressed the small button, and it sprang open. Inside, on one side, was a tiny picture of James. On the other side was a lock of dark hair, tied with a minute red thread. Then I found the birth certificate. It was at the very bottom. It was for a baby boy, born to Clara Miller. Father James Miller deceased. The baby's name was Michael James Miller. I dropped the paper. It fluttered to the quilt. I could not breathe. Michael. My brother Michael. His father was not Thomas. His father was a soldier named James, a man who died a hero's death before he was even born. My whole body started to shake. The room felt like it was spinning. All the pieces fell into place with a deafening roar. My mother's silence about her past, her profound sadness that sometimes seemed to have no source, the way she would sometimes stare out the window for hours, my father's quiet, almost reverent devotion to her. He was not just her husband. He was her rescuer. He was Michael's rescuer. Thomas must have met my mother when she was a young pregnant widow, grieving and alone in the world. He loved her. He married her. He gave her son his name. He raised Michael as his own. He never once treated him differently. He was Michael's father in every way that mattered. And they never told him. They never told me. They built a beautiful life, a happy life, on a foundation of a beautiful lie. I did not know what to do. I sat on that bed for a long time. The afternoon sun moved across the floor. I held a box in my lap. I cried. I cried for my mother and her lost love. I cried for James, who never got to hold his son. I cried for my father Thomas, who carried this secret his whole life, a secret of love and sacrifice. And I cried for Michael, my brother, who was about to learn that the man he adored, the man he called Dad, was not his biological father. I knew I had to tell him. I could not carry this secret alone. It was too heavy. It was his truth. He had a right to know, but I was terrified, terrified of breaking his heart, terrified of shattering the perfect image he had of our parents, terrified of changing our relationship forever. I called him. My voice was shaking. Can you come to the house? I asked. I found something important, in Mom's closet. He came over an hour later. He found me still sitting on the bed. The box was beside me. The letters and the photo were spread out on the quilt. What is it, Clara? He asked. His voice was full of concern. You look like you have seen a ghost. I pushed the box toward him. I found this, I said, in Mom's closet. I think you need to see it. He sat down next to me. He picked up the photograph. He stared at it for a long time. His brow was furrowed. Who is that with Mom? He asked quietly. I have never seen this picture. His name was James, I said. He was a soldier. Michael picked up the stack of letters. He read the first one, then the second. I watched his face. I saw the confusion turn to dawning understanding. Then the understanding turned to profound pain. He read the final letter, the one from the War Department. His face went pale. He looked at me, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Is this me? He whispered. His voice was rough with emotion. I nodded slowly. My own tears were falling again. Yes, Michael, that is you. James Miller was your father. He stood up abruptly. He walked to the window. He stared out into the backyard where he and my father had played catch, where my father had taught him to ride a bike, where he had taught him how to shave. I could see his shoulders shaking. He was a strong man, but in that moment he looked fragile. Why? He asked his back to me. Why did they not tell me that? I think they wanted to protect you, I said softly. They wanted you to have a normal life, a happy life, with a father who was here, who could teach you things, who could be there for you. Dad, Thomas, he loved you so much. He chose you, Michael. He chose to be your father. Michael turned around. Tears were streaming down his face. But he was my father. Thomas was my father. He was there for everything. My first steps, my first day of school, teaching me to drive, walking me down the aisle. This other man, he is just a picture, a story, a ghost. I know, I said. And that is still true. Nothing changes that. Dad loved you with all his heart. But now you know the whole story. You know about the brave man who gave you life. You know about the great love Mom had before Dad. It does not take away from what we had. It just adds to it. We talked for hours that day. We cried and we held each other. We looked at all the letters. We looked at the locket. We pieced together the story of Clara and James. A short story, a love story cut down before it truly began. A story of a young man who went to war and never came home. A story of a young woman who had to find the strength to go on. We decided we needed to know more. We wanted to honor James. We owed him that. He was not just a ghost. He was a person who loved and was loved. We spent the next few months researching. It became our shared mission, a way to process the shock and the grief. We found his military records. We learned he was from a small town in Pennsylvania. He was an only child. His parents were long deceased. We learned he was awarded a medal for bravery. He had saved 2 of his fellow soldiers before he was killed. We found a picture of his grave in a beautiful American military cemetery overseas. We decided we had to go. We had to see it for ourselves. We planned a trip. We flew to Europe. We took a train and then a car to the cemetery. It was a vast, serene field of white crosses and stars. It was impeccably maintained, peaceful and heartbreakingly sad. We found his cross. James Miller, private, beloved son. The dates showed he was only 19 years old. 19, just a boy. We stood there for a long time. The wind rustled the leaves on the trees. We placed flowers by his grave. We thanked him. We told him about his son. We told him Michael had a good life, that he was a good man, a good father. We told him he was a grandfather. We told him our mother never forgot him, that she loved him until the end, that she kept his memory alive in a small wooden box. We left a small stone on top of his cross, a traditional sign of remembrance. It was a powerful moment, a healing moment, a moment that connected past and present in a way I never thought possible. When we returned home, something had shifted in Michael. He was quieter, more thoughtful. He started talking about our father Thomas with even more love and respect. He understood the depth of his sacrifice. Now, he understood the strength of his love. He said, "Dad did not have to love me. He chose to. That is the most powerful love there is." He also started to embrace this new part of his identity. He framed the photo of James and our mother. He put it in his study next to a photo of our father Thomas. He said he had 2 fathers, one who gave him life and one who showed him how to live it. He started volunteering with the organization that supports families of fallen soldiers. He said it made him feel connected. It gave his story a purpose. The secret my mother took to her grave was out. It was a painful discovery. It was a heartbreaking discovery, but it did not break our family. It did not break Michael. It made us stronger. It made us understand the complexities of love and loss and sacrifice. It made us see our parents not as perfect icons, but as real people. People who made hard choices. People who loved deeply and suffered greatly. People who have built a beautiful life out of the ashes of tragedy. I look at my family now with new eyes. I see the invisible threads that connect us, the threads of love that are stronger than blood, the threads of choice that are stronger than biology, the threads of sacrifice that bind generations together. My father Thomas chose to love my mother and her son. That is a powerful love, a love that defines what family truly means, a love that is active, not passive, a love that is a decision you make every single day. If you are listening to this and you have a secret in your family, or if you discover one, please know this. The truth can be painful. It can shake your world to its very foundations. But it can also bring a deeper understanding. It can also bring a deeper, more profound love. It can teach you about resilience and sacrifice and the incredible capacity of the human heart. Do not be afraid of the truth. Embrace it. Learn from it. Let it teach you about the strength of the human heart. Let it show you that love comes in many forms. And the greatest love of all is often the love that chooses to stay, the love that chooses to build a new story from the broken pieces of the old one. That is the lesson my mother's secret taught me. Love is a choice. And my family chose love every single day. They chose to create joy out of sorrow. They chose to build a future on a painful past. And for that I will be forever grateful.